You have to stand out. You have to find your own voice. This is where AI can be a curse and not a benefit. I call it being you-ier. And you have to figure out what makes you you-ier. And that's what's going to stand out. I'm going to talk about what I've learned as a scientist of Substack, testing notes and everything, and what worked and what didn't. So I save you time. I made all the stupid mistakes so you don't have to.
So hello, Karen. Thank you so much for joining me today. I wanted to talk with you about your amazing success on Substack, since I still remember like the early days when you had like the feeling you were talking into the void and just hearing crickets. And now you are really like a thriving Substacker and have a wonderful also like notes writing ecosystem built. So I would so much love to learn more about when did you start with your Substack notes journey and Substack in general, and where are you now?
I actually got on Substack about a year ago, but I've been around for a long time because I'm ancient. I'm 65. I've been doing this for a while. So when I got on Substack, I didn't know my way around there. So I had to like figure it out, because what works on Instagram and works on Facebook does not necessarily work on Substack. So I had to experiment. So I consider myself sort of like a Substack scientist. I'm like, well, that didn't work. Let me try something else. Oh, that did work. Let me try that in 5 other ways, you know. So that's sort of how I grew. And eventually now my notes are picking up momentum, and my posts also going kind of viral, and, you know, all of that good stuff. But it took a while to figure things out.
What I'm seeing often on Substack Notes is that you're also sharing visuals, which I so much love. And how are you creating these visuals, and where do you get these texts from?
Oh, well, I write everything. That's something that I've decided to do because I'm a writer first. Like, I was a writer for years. I was a writer way back when I was a kid, writing in a journal and thinking someday I want to write books. So I write all of my notes and the visuals with them. And I'm a designer also. I used to be in advertising. And so when I was in advertising, I was a writer and a creative director. And that's sort of, I guess, what I do on Substack, the writer, and I'm also the creative director of the posts that you see. And I use Canva to create them.
But in addition, I'm also seeing your Substack notes, like short form posts on the platform often. And I'm always have the feeling they are like really scroll stopping. Now we're doing together a boot camp, like the Substack Notes Bootcamp 2026, together with Ellen Scher. She's a psychotherapist from Florida, which is amazing. And you were the one who connected Ellen and me just a few months back. And now we're like, all the 3 of us are connected. What will you talk about inside the bootcamp?
Well, I'm going to talk about what I've learned as a scientist of Substack, testing notes and everything, and what worked and what didn't. So I save you time. I made all the stupid mistakes so you don't have to. You just get the knowledge that I've gained about what has really been working. And a lot of it has to do with figuring out how to be scroll stop worthy. Why would somebody pause? And sometimes it's the language, sometimes it's the visual, sometimes it's a combination. I've tested both short and long, and one of my longest notes is my most viral. It's been, I think I showed you, it was like liked like 2,200 times or something, and reshared a bunch of times. And it was long. So long does not necessarily stop a post from being scroll stopping. It can still be scroll stopping if it's long, if you follow certain principles, which I did for that post. And as soon as that post, I say, don't only learn from your mistakes, learn from your non-mistakes. Like, figure out like, okay, well, that went well. What did I do there? And how do I repeat it? So that's what I kept doing. And that's kind of how I figured out the formula.
So yeah, so longer isn't always better. But in your case, apparently with you being like this note scientist, you found out that longer can be better. This is going to be like one of the insights then. And what is like the biggest mistake you're seeing like beginners do when they join Substack Notes?
You have to stand out. You have to find your own voice. And, you know, this is where AI can be a curse and not a benefit, because AI can be very generic. And so I try to encourage people to figure out what their own voice is. I write about it in my books. I call it being YOU-ier. And you have to figure out what makes you you-ier. And that's what's going to stand out, because the same person can write about midlife, but write about it in their voice, in their way, in their words. But if you sound like you're generic, you're not going to be scroll stopping. So you really have to figure out what your voice is and really know your audience and talk to them and their pain points and their goals and their hopes and be that's where like AI can be a little bit like too slick. And so I really encourage people to step away from the AI and really think about what you're thinking and feeling yourself and really think about it. If you are a coach or a consultant or just somebody out in the world talking to people, what is on their minds, what is in their hearts, and write for that.
Yeah, I think this is very interesting because at the moment we now see that like the AI content has surpassed the human written content on the internet. So somehow you could say the internet is dead, at least like the human internet. So we're definitely like entering a new age. And yesterday I was talking with Melinda Campbell about exactly this. She's like the value whisperer. And she also said that the biggest problem she is seeing is really that you ask AI, what is my voice? And then AI is telling you what is the voice, but you have to educate the child that is AI on, hey, this is me. I'm Karen Salmonson. And this is my voice. This is who I am. This is the Eunice that I'm bringing into my writing. And as you know, I told you about like this Google expert I was interviewing a few months back. And he also said to me that the writer thumbprint is going to be more important than ever in this AI age. And we're going to talk about this also inside the bootcamp. What do you see like as this writer thumbprint? And how do you think how important are values? Like we talked about this like with families. So for instance, for me, family is very important, or like collaboration and networking, getting people together and stuff. What do you think about like this writer thumbprint?
Well, first of all, writer thumbprint is everything. That's really important. And you just have to know what your voice is. And you have to like figure out why you're different and own it. Like, so for example, I do write about midlife, but I come from it in a very like actually weird way. And in fact, the more you can say the word weird, the more you know that you're on track for being you-ier. Because what I do is I talk about a lot of times about mortality awareness and thinking about how our time here is finite. We're here and then we're not. And it's up to us to make the here part as meaningful as possible. And even though I write about mortality awareness and actually embracing the idea that we are going to die, I do that to put a fire under your tush and live more boldly and live more meaningfully. And so I write about those areas for midlife. So it's different than somebody that just writes about midlife. I'm here as your wake up call person for midlife. And I use humor and I use humor a lot, but I try not to use humor in a way that's just like, like elbow somebody. It's more like, aha, like, it's like, it kind of gets you to laugh about something that you maybe didn't want to look at, that's a little bit painful. Humor is kind of a way in to the deeper, darker. That's why I call my Substack the stand-up philosopher, because a little bit of humor kind of like eases looking at the difficult stuff and eases considering how to change your life if you're laughing on your way to doing it. But I do it gently, and I'd still do it with what I hope is meaningful poignancy, but it has that humor in it. But that's my voice. But somebody else's voice would be different. But when you would look at a post, would you say, oh, yeah, that's a typical Karen Salmonson post because it has that, I don't know what, whatever that zhuzh is. You have to find what your zhuzh is. And by the way, AI can't do me. Sometimes I'll say like, write something in this style just to see how good AI is getting. I am happy to say that AI cannot write like me, and I am glad. So if AI can't write like you, be happy. That means you have your own voice.
Everything you're posting on Substack with your long form posts as well as on Substack notes, this is so you. And I know that many love to hear that you're somehow someone who's going to say, well, I'll test AI, I see how good it is. At the moment, it's not really, I cannot really use it as a buddy, maybe to make my writing better, or maybe to criticize it, to get like some kind of health check or so.
I don't even like it editing. But I also believe I'm not like against AI. I'm against letting it decide what your voice is and letting it be too much, because I really do feel as I keep, by the way, being you-ier is important in life in general. That's why it's even in this book. I talk about being you-ier. The you-ier you are, the happier you will be. The more authentic you're living your life, the more happy you'll be. The you-ier you are about who you pick as your partner. The you-ier you are about what you decide what to eat for lunch. The you-ier you are about your Substack. People can feel the you-iness in you. And if you let AI do it, it's going to not be there. It's going to be like sort of like Stepford wife content, versus like who you really are. And I do think people can feel that. So I am but I also know that it's here to stay. So I'm sort of wrestling with that right now. But I do try to write everything myself at this point, which means I don't, and this might be interesting, I don't post as much as some people do because it's really a handwritten bespoke essay that I'm sitting there, like it might take me like 3 weeks, a month, even sometimes in certain posts, but those are the ones that do the best. But with notes, I do like to batch them. I drink a lot of coffee and I start off writing a couple of, them and I'm like, that's not quite it. And then by like my fifth, sixth, seventh, like 30 minutes in, then my best posts come. That's sort of like the creative momentum that happens for me. And those are some of my best posts where I'm sitting there with a cup of coffee and writing for 30 minutes.
Do you use StackBuddy now for this?
I have used StackBuddy, your thing. Yes. Yeah. I love that. It's very good.
Oh, super. Yeah. And so it's working for you, and it's like giving you some time back then with the batching, because this is exactly what I'm doing. I'm like sitting down on a Monday or on a Tuesday, and then I'm like batch creating my notes so that people have the feeling that I'm like always on, but I'm of course not. And so while I'm asleep, for instance, because I'm in Germany, or while I'm picking up the kids or at the playground, I'm not like posting my notes anymore. And yeah, this is just how it is. And so you have the feeling that it's really helping you getting back some more time and space there.
Yes, definitely. But sometimes I like to go on and just post something. I go against what's in there because I'm like, I just remembered, or I'll remember something I wrote. Like I also use my own content. Like I go in, I'm like, what did I say on page 27? Like sometimes you can just go in and find something little, dig around and find something that's like a little gem that would be okay on notes, and then kind of do that too.
Yeah. And I think the best really is if you're an author, you can really take parts of your book or just a sentence from your book and post it on Substack Notes. This is really the best. I always said with Substack Notes, it's like posting in the moment. This is always how I love to do it. So when I was somewhere with the kids, I would take a photo and then share my thought. But I think especially if you are an author and you have already something, or I met, for instance, someone from Paris last week, and he told me that he translated specific thesis in science. And he, for instance, now can also take parts of it, post it as long form posts, and post it in short form posts. And when you're thinking about like long form posts and short form posts, do you have any tips on how to master short form writing?
Even though I said some things are different on Instagram than they are on Facebook, some writing things are always the same. Like on Substack, I tend to post things that are a little bit more poignant. I feel like people on Substack are like real writer people. And I feel like Instagram, I can be a little bit more like goofy or something, But the principles of writing are the same. And it's really weird. Okay, I will tell you something that's a little weird. I think all writing is act 1, act 2, act 3. I was a film major in college. Even if it's a 3-line Substack note, it's act 1, act 2, act 3. Act 1 is the setup, and it's something that has to be scroll stopping. Act 2 is sort of explaining what that means. I just did a 3-sentence one today. So that's why it's even popping in my mind, because after I wrote it, I study. I'm like, oh, that works. Oh, that's act 1, act 2, act 3. So this is just fresh off my brain. I realized it today. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And act 3, the last third sentence, if you're doing a 3, and you don't have to do 3-sentence ones. It could even be like 10 cents, but there's still act 1, act 2, act 3 is like the summary of it, to leave them with something. And so when I noticed that this morning, I thought, oh, now I can use that on purpose, not by accident. So that's something I would say, to do it on purpose.
Do you have an example there, Karen, for this?
Yeah, here, let me pull it up, my one right now, because I don't even know. Remember I said I sometimes post things like on purpose, by accident. Yeah. So the one today was, the brain has a charming habit of confusing familiarity with safety. Okay, so that's my act 1. Act 2, That's how people stay in jobs they hate and relationships that shrink them. That's Act 2. Now, Act 3 is the summary, the grand finale. Your comfort zone is another form of Stockholm syndrome. And that's the 1, 2, 3 punch.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. This is
So
incredible. This is
it's
so
three,
good.
but do you see how it's Act 1, Act 2,
Yeah.
Act 3?
Yeah. I feel it. Yeah.
And then that got an engagement and got like, I only posted it like an hour or so ago, and it has like 4 comments under it.
Cool. I've never ever saw someone thinking about like that this would fit in a short form post or notes. But I think this is amazing. And Karen, if you're thinking about how you started writing a note, so if you're like remember going back in time and thinking about how in the past would you start writing this post and how are you now writing this post? For instance, in the past you would have started and it would just be one sentence. Now you told us already that your posts are now longer, you experiment more, and so on and so on. What do you have for a feeling? How did your writing change over the course of time? Do you have any suggestions here for us?
Do you mean my writing for Substack notes or my writing in general?
Yeah. Or do you have the feeling that you started writing on Substack notes and now posting like the same stuff as in the past, but just have more followers and more people now knowing about you, so you're gaining momentum?
I hope what I'm about to say will help somebody, but it is what I'm doing. So it might be me specific, but maybe if you listen, you'll figure out how it can help you. I like to be constantly reinventing myself. I mean, that's something that I even talk about, like even in this mortality awareness, like you want to always, just keep growing and thriving and changing and reinventing. And for a while, I was a self-help book author, but I did self-help for people who wouldn't be caught dead doing self-help. It always had humor. That's been kind of a consistent thing. But I was a self-help book author. But my very, 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 very first book was a novel. So I'm a novelist that accidentally became a self-help book author. And as I got older, I thought, I don't want to be a self-help book author anymore. I want to be more literary, and I want to tell stories again, because that's how I first started as a novelist. And so I'm letting myself do that because that is me-ier, and so my writing is changing. And also the whole personal development field got very, very crowded. And what I was doing, I told you, this is like almost like a therapy session. It might be too me specific, but the underlying thing is I'm not writing like a personal development author anymore. I'm writing like a person in development. There we go. I just thought of that, but that's true. I'm writing more like memoir-y, more poignant, more like my story. This is me. And I also think that's something with AI. I'm thinking about this now as I'm talking it out, that AI can't really match your own stories, your own personal experiences, those quirky, weird, I'm going to say weird again, things that have happened to you. The more you have that, the better. Your own language, your own things. And I'm trying to write like how I started, how I originally started before I became an accidental personal development author. I originally was a person that wanted to write novels and loved books and literary writings, but always the funny stuff. So I'm returning back to what I always wanted to be a writer for. And Substack is allowing me to do that too. And so I'm letting go of being a personal development author. So that's me specific, but I guess I would ask somebody else to think, are you really in your true voice right now? Is there something YOU-ier that you need to do? And I can ask you questions. Maybe when we go on our boot camp, I'll give people some questions to help them to figure out what for them is their YOU-iest voice and what that is. But so I am becoming YOU-ier because I'm shedding the skin of personal development and being more, it still helps people. I still have the psychology and the philosophy in it, but it's less like listicles, like do these 3 tips, like no more.
And do you have the feeling that somehow you're also like at the moment writing a book on Substack without like knowing it, so that you could put all your essays then in a book?
It's funny you say that. It's really funny. I started to write stories from my past, from my 30s, which was a time of me making some hilariously stupid mistakes in my life. And so my pain is your entertainment. I call it entertainment. So I started to write stories about my terrible relationship with my narcissistic, jealous, controlling ex. People are they're loving him as a character. Great character, terrible fiance. So I started to write them, and people are like, oh, share more. And then I thought this could be a book. So I do think there is a way to put your essays together, your posts together into a book. I do.
I met you via notes because I think Patricia Ross was the one. She's also one of the viral Substack notes writers now. She also started from like rock bottom on Medium. And she was the one, someone recommending you and one of your long form stories where you then compared like the moment you die with the moment that your boss says you're fired, and you're gonna then say why am I fired, my life is so good and I'm so happy and satisfied and everything. And then God says, well, you know what, I having here like 25 hours of material, 250 whatever hours of material where you're gonna complain about your life and how horrible everything is and your health and your back and everything. And I have so much the feeling, compared to your latest book, that now with your writing on Substack, you are you-ier than ever. This is just my feeling. And what do you think about the feedback loops? Because I think the feedback loops on Substack really help. So I always say, you know what, if you put yourself out there, you're going to get this feedback, whether it's good or bad. And based on the feedback, first, you're going to get motivated and encouraged, to do your, like, to do what you do, like do your shit, you know what I mean? And then at the same time, maybe also people going to say, you know what, I love this part or this specific character. And suddenly you're going to say, you know what, I'm going to write more about this narcissistic ex or something like this. How do you feel about this? Because this is how I feel about you.
I think that's a really good point you brought up. You know what tells me is the freaking comments. The comments underneath the posts tell me I'm heading in the right direction. Again, my Substack scientists are like, oh, okay, people. And then I read the comments and I hear other people's pain points and the things that I relate to in their pain points. And I think, oh, I could easily write more about that. And then it helps me feel validated. It's actually very healing too, when you write something from your past and you see other people are saying, I almost hesitate to say the words "me too," but the good kind of "me too" movement, like, oh, you too. So, yes, I look at that and I let that direct my content. And then the more I also look, this is true, I look at what I hate about AI. And then I try to make sure that I do the opposite. So if something could be an AI type of an essay, I'm like, I'm not going near that. So one of my more viral posts was where I came up with this idea of interviewing my 90-year-old self coming over and giving me life advice, because I'm not 90 yet, I'm 65. So I started to kind of write this up, and that one became, it was like not something that AI would write. I don't know how to explain it. It was like this weird, surreal kind of Black Mirror essay where 90-year-old me comes over to have coffee with me and give me life advice. She shows up
So
in
good. So good. Yeah.
It was very actually healing. I actually, one thing I did use AI for, and this is kind of funny. I showed AI a photo of me now, and I said, show me at 90. And then it aged me. And then I said, show me a photo of 90-year-old me hugging 65-year-old me. And a lot of people commented on that image. And then in my notes, this is how to use notes from an article, because I saw people going, oh, I love that photo of 90-year-old you hugging you. So I went on notes and I told people to do their own photo of their 90-year-old self hugging their present self. And then people started to share their photos underneath on the notes. So that was a way I took something from the essay that I saw was in the comments, and then I turned it into a notes and made it interactive. And then people really, and I had fun looking at people's photos of their 90-year-old selves hugging their present selves. So that was a way I brought the conversation into notes.
Yeah, and I love this so much. And I think you can really start a movement now also with AI. Also like this question, maybe what if I jumped, whatever, like from the skyscraper or so, but in a good way, of course. For instance, now I see many also generating these AI images. I have one on a writing member, for instance, she was posting a photo where she was standing on a skyscraper, like super like cool. And I was like, no. This is of course her, but she never ever took this photo. Like, this can't be it. And sure, she told me that she's doing now AI photo shoots, like just posting her face portrait, and then she's gonna go like, hey, I want to stand on a skyscraper. This shows how bold I am, something like this. this is also how you can set trends, not just follow trends, but really set trends by experimenting with this. And also, what's happening now is sometimes you're seeing articles getting posted on the newspapers, and then at the bottom it says, if you want me to make this a bit punchier, la la la, you know what I mean? Like prompt me like this and that, so that it's really like copy and paste it from ChatGPT and put it in the newspaper. Sometimes it's crazy. It's super crazy what's going to happen there.
My
With
God.
journalism, journalism maybe
That
it's also
is
going to
scary.
die. So in the future, Karen, what I could see for you would also be like Karen Salmonson bot. This sounds not good, of course, I know. You don't have to tell it bot, but it's Karen Salmonson 2.0, also not good, but very generic, but you know what I mean? So that people, for instance, what would Karen do now? What would Karen suggest? You know what I mean? No, but because now at the moment, so many people, also copywriters, they create their own bots.
I'm going to tell you something. What I would do is, I'm even thinking this out loud. My whole thing about being YOU-ier is I don't want to give general advice to people because I do coach people. I do life reviews with people. I do life tune-ups. I do a lot of one-on-one sessions. That's part of what I've been doing for years, and I love it. And I need to personalize it. So I can give advice, even in my book like this one, I ask a lot of questions because I know that it has to be something geared towards you. So maybe I'm going to change my mind. The Karen bot scares the hell out of me. Really.
Right now, we're going to redo the interview in 2027, and then maybe you're going to think about it. There's one topic we haven't talked about, Karen. Yesterday, you sent me an email and telling me that you now have this white badge, meaning you have 100 paid subscribers. So congrats. I need some confetti. Where is the confetti? You know about my confetti. So here's some confetti for you, Karen. I'm so proud of you. How do you feel about it? How did you find out about it?
I woke up to it. I didn't even know. I didn't, because I was tracking and I'm like, oh, I don't even want to look. And then I woke up, I'm like, oh, when you stop looking, that's when it happens. How do you like that? But really what happened was when I first started Substack, I wasn't thinking about how to monetize it because I have other things that I do besides selling my Substack paid. Because like I said, I do one-on-one client coaching and I also sell books and I also sell courses and I'm a mastermind. So I was like, paid, I'll get to that. I mean, I had it set up to pay me for paid, but I only said get an extra article to a week. And then I thought, you know what? I want to do more with Substack because I fell in love with Substack. So I beefed up what you get as a paid member. I'm now offering monthly life wake-up calls, which are going to be live interactive calls with people in the paid community. I'm giving away free access to my courses that I sell for $99 on my site, but they're free. I'm giving away 3 of them. I'm going to add more. So that's like $300, $400 there. And I'm going to have tools. As soon as I beefed up what you get as a paid person, that's when people started to really sign up. So if you make your paid offer really, really valuable, then it's so obvious, but I didn't really pay attention to it before. And then I started paying attention, and that's when the paid thing started happening.
We also were talking about this is really go paid from day one, because then somehow Substack is supporting you, because Substack only earns money if you do. So yeah, they of course love if you're earning money. So Karen, I'm so excited already about our bootcamp. I think you can bring so much newness into this whole bootcamp, and I can't wait to learn from you. And since you are already like friends with Ellen, this is going to be super awesome. We're going to have like a wonderful time together. And usually we are always like 50 bootcampers. So there's a cap with 50 boot campers. We're super excited about this. And Karen, if someone is now already like in love with you and wants to do, for instance, a 101 or wants to check out your newsletters, where can we find you? Where can we connect with you?
I am Karen Salmonson. Everybody mangles my last name. They're always going Salmonson. So I have a website called notsalmon.com, not thefish.com. And then even on Instagram and Facebook, it's always Not Salmon is the handle. Even on Substack, the little URL thingy is like Not Salmon. But my new book, You're to Die for Life, has its own site, you're-to-die-for-life.com. And that's where you can find out how to do a life review and one-on-one personal coaching with me. And notsalmon.com has my hire me to help you with your book writing and hire me to help you with branding and marketing. So each site does different functions. So that's a little bit about where to find me.
Yeah, this is awesome. And I can't recommend anyone else when it comes to really finding this you-ness in yourself and becoming you-ier. So this is definitely Karen Salmonson. So check her out. And also, if you want to meet her live, then you can participate in our bootcamp starting in April. You're going to find all about this in the show notes. So Karen, thank you so much. It was delightful.
Oh, thank you. I'm looking forward to the Substack bootcamp with you.